The Sandown Clown. In early May 1973, in Sandown, the Isle of Wight, UK, two children vacationing out at the lake began to hear an ambulance-like siren and decided to follow the sound. They followed the sound till they came to a bridge over a stream. As they crossed the bridge, a three-fingered hand wearing a blue glove rose up from underneath the bridge. The hand was attached to a strange figure that emerged from underneath the bridge. What the children were met with was described by them as a cross between a clown, a robot, and an alien. The being was over 7 feet tall. Its head was described as being too large in proportion to its thin frame. Its skin was pale and had the consistency of paper. Its face seemed like it was crudely painted onto the surface of its head, with two blue triangles for eyes, a flat brown rectangle for a nose, and its mouth had thin yellow lips in the shape of an oval. Its hair was red, which hung down from beneath its hat in sparse frizzled strands. Two antennas stuck out from the sides of its head, and it had antennas extending from its wrists and ankles. It appeared to be wearing a clown costume. Although it had gloves on, its feet were bare, exposing its 3 toes. The being was holding a book, which he accidentally dropped into the water. He began to splash about in the water in search of the book for some time. After he had retrieved his book, he began hopping into a metal windowless hut, where he came out with a microphone and tannoy system. The siren-type wailing started again, this time being so loud and unbearable that the children ran away. The siren stopped and a voice called out, "Hello, are you still there?" Even though the children had run far away, the voice sounded as if it was right next to them. As strange as this encounter was so far, the children decided to come back to the clown. The clown brought out a notebook where it wrote inside it with seemingly random words that were written in an unintelligible order. The clown began pointing at the words in order of which they should be read, and it read, "Hello, and I am all colors Sam." The children asked the clown if he was a man, and he said no. They asked if he was a ghost, and he said, "Well, not really, but I am in an odd sort of way." They asked if he's not a man and he's not a ghost, then what are you? To which he simply replied, "You know." The clown then invited the children into the metal shed through a flap. Inside the shed it had 2 floors, an electric heater, and furniture made of wood. Inside the shed, the clown put a berry inside of its ear. It began to shake his head, and the berry resurfaced in one of his eyes. And then with another head shake, it ended up in his mouth. After about a half hour, the children bid farewell to the clown and exited the shed, and ran to a nearby golf club to the nearest adult to tell them about what they had seen. At first, the father did not believe his daughter about what she had told him, but she was so insistent that it had actually happened, and her account was so detailed that the father sought out the boy she was with. The boy confirmed that he had indeed encountered the strange entity, and confirmed many of the details the daughter had provided. The father had seen a number of strange things in the area himself. In October of 1970, 3 years before, he was driving his car in the afternoon making his way from Brading to St. Helens, and turned to his right, above the river Yar, and saw a craft with 7 bright red lights. The lights were interspersed with turquoise and white lights. He stopped his car to watch the craft for a while. After he started to move again, the craft seemed to follow him. As he got closer to St. Helens, the craft began to fly lower and lower to the ground, and appeared to be shrinking. The number of lights began to decrease to just 4 red lights. He decided to stop his car again and pointed a flashlight towards the craft. The craft appeared to respond to the light and weaved back and forth in response. He drove to his friend's house, where his friend claimed to see the craft as well. After that night, he would occasionally see red lights in the sky, which would sometimes seem to follow him in his car, as if they were observing him. In March of 1972, he had another experience in Compton Bay. There was an unexpected tidal surge that left him trapped on the cliffs. The surge seemed to be caused by something droning under the water. He could see two yellow lights underneath the surface of the sea. The lights went out, the tides died down, and he was able to escape from the cliffs. After the realization that the father's experience was somehow connected to the daughter's, the father decided to write to the Beaufort Journal, the British UFO Research Association, and to publish his story in the January issue of 1978.